I can remember going along a fast straight and overtaking a twin-engined aircraft that was flat out at 140 miles per hour. I was doing roughly 190 miles per hour. That made me think, crikey, this really is a quick car. Some things are hard to forget. 57 years after his famous round trip from Brescia to Rome and back again, Sir Stirling Moss still got excited about the 1955 Mille Miglia as we sat down for an interview in his office on the ground floor of his Mayfair home. Surrounded by memorabilia from his remarkable career, he regarded that race as the finest of his 197 professional victories. And just looking at the bare statistics, it's easy to understand why. Driving a 310 bhp Mercedes 300 SLR, essentially an F1 car with headlights, he averaged 97.96 miles per hour over 992 miles of closed public roads, setting a record time of 10 hours 7 meters 48. He only escaped the tight confines of the cockpit once, to relieve himself in Rome, and spent the rest of the trip mounted over the Mercedes propshaft, which passed between the driver's legs and separated the 300 SLR's clutch and brake pedals by the best part of 24 inches. Amid coughs of dust from the inboard brakes, waves of sickening heat from the transmission and spits of petrol from the fuel filler cap behind his head, Moss reached speeds that would have registered a new land speed record 30 years earlier. Stirling Moss and racing journalist Dennis Jenkinson, right, who rode with him at the Mille Miglia. Bernard Caillé, Getty Images. But while Moss's performance was sublime, it was only possible with the help of his co-driver, and Motorsport magazine journalist, Dennis Jenkinson. Jenkinson rode in the passenger seat throughout, giving Moss vital information on the road ahead with a series of hand signals while making mental notes for his must-read write-up in the next issue of Motorsport. His secret weapon was an 18-foot-long roll of pace notes, the toilet roll, that was coiled within a specially designed alloy box with a Perspex viewing window. At the time, such a system was quite ingenious, and it was the only way the pair could hope to compete with the local knowledge of the Italian drivers, who had won the event every year since the war. In the months leading up to the race, Moss and Jenkinson compiled their pace notes with a series of practice runs in various Mercedes machinery. On these reconnaissance laps the pair would fastidiously analyze each corner, grading them as saucy ones, dodgy ones and very dangerous ones, depending on road surface and severity. But as Moss got as close to racing speeds as possible while avoiding the local traffic, the practice laps were not without danger and, rather inevitably, two cars were written off. One, a development 300 SLR, met its end after coming across a loose sheep at 70 miles per hour. Another, a 300 SL Gullwing, collided with an Italian military truck at one of the route's many junctions. But for Mercedes it was merely collateral damage in the pursuit of victory, and team boss Alfred Neubauer's main concern was for Moss and Jenkinson. After each practice run in the 300 SLR, Mercedes mechanics assessed its wear and tear in an effort to minimize the chances of a problem on race day. One of the test cars completed the equivalent of 6 Mille Miglias, with all four of the Mercedes team drivers, Moss, Juan Manuel Fangio, Carl Kling and Hans Hermann, pushing it to its limits over the pot-holed mountain roads. Moss never drove another car quite like it. Stirling Moss at the wheel of the number 722 Mercedes during his legendary drive to victory at the 1955 Mille Miglia. Bettman, contributor, Getty Images. The greatest car built, in my mind, was the 300 SLR Mercedes, he told ESPN in 2012. There's a car that was unbreakable, really. I did the Mille Miglia with it, and the last 340 kilometers, that's having driven for 800 miles or so, I managed to average 165.1 miles per hour, which just shows you that that car was just the same at the end as it was at the beginning. It was just fantastic. I never ever got into a Mercedes thinking, I hope the wheel doesn't come off, or I hope this or that doesn't happen. All the other cars, mostly Lotuses, it was a concern, particularly if you are going between trees and things. Such confidence in the machinery meant the Moss-Jenkinson 300 SLR race number 722, chassis number 0004 took a bit of a battering over its 1,000 miles. Ahead of the race, Mercedes ordered Moss to set the early pace in order to push the reliability of its Italian rivals to the limit. One of the cars the team was hoping to stretch to breaking point was the 4.4-litre Ferrari of Eugenio Castellotti, which started a minute behind Moss but was right on his tail as they arrived in Padova 100 miles later. Heading onto the town's main street, Moss locked a brake and ran wide, collecting a straw bale in the process and presenting an opportunity for Castellotti to get past. Once ahead, the Italian used his Ferrari's extra 20 bhp to pull away, but as Jenkinson noted in High